Now, if you look at this example that we have regarding the plantation of oranges, you will realize that services are never separated from the goods. Even when you talk about hardcore manufacturing, you will realize while you are selling them out, you need some assistance from the services. For example, if you see, they're saying that you have the plantation of the orange tree, you talk about caring the orange tree, harvesting by the grove workers and directing the workers by management staff, packing, transporting, distributing of the grocery stores. All of these things, they are primarily the domain of the services and not just cannot be isolated from the goods, they cannot be separated from the good. That is what we call the benefit concept, which is the encapsulation of the benefits of the product in the consumer mind. So basically, whenever you talk about experiences, creation of the experiences, you talk about the benefits, you talk about providing value, you talk about providing utility to the customers, all about services all the time. Now, Survection model is one kind of a model that can help you understand the consumer experience while being in a particular service environment. Now, Survection model and its dimension can be applied universally across all the service industry. You name a hospital, you talk about a university, you talk about an airline, you will realize by using Survection model, you would be able to explore the consumer experiences. You will be able to unlock consumer perceptions about a certain service experience. So basically what you need to understand is that what actually defines consumer experience within a service environment. Either it's a positive experience or a negative or a bad experience. You felt happy, you felt insane, you felt wild. Any kind of consumer experience can be defined in terms of four dimensions, and these dimensions are basically discussed in Survection model. Now what we are going to do in the coming semester, in the coming lectures, in the coming weeks, we are going to discuss all these dimensions individually. For the time being, we are just going to identify, explain the basic concept. What do you mean by the word of the customer, service scape, invisible organization and systems, or contact personnel and service providers. But in the coming weeks, we are going to discuss each and every dimension of Survection model in a lot more detail, because majority of the chapters are about all these dimensions that we have just discovered. So for example, if you talk about CompStats University, take into consideration you are a student here in CompStats University. So what I want you people to explain your experience being in CompStats University, or you need to understand it, what defines your consumer experience being in CompStats, what are the different variables that can make or break your experience towards CompStat, that can make you feel happy or exhausted while being in CompStat. So for example, the first dimension is a service scape. A service scape actually affects a lot in defining the consumer experiences, because we do not have any physical product. We are here to use the service. We spend hours and hours of our daily life, we spend months, we spend years. So a service scape and its dimensions have to be great in order to engage customer into that particular service. Also, the contact personnel who will be providing you those services, you talk about coordinators of the department, you talk about the in charges, you talk about head of department, you talk about your faculty members, all of their personal training, their motivation, their sense of direction, their sense of commitment, their attitudes, their behaviors, everything defines the service environment, and everything actually affects the customer experiences. Then the rules, the organization policies like attendance policy, course registration policy, course withdrawn policy, or any kind of policy that can affect your consumer experience while you are in a university. And also the attitude of the other customers, for example your class fellows, if they make sound or they make noise during the classrooms, of their behavior, they are so egoistic, they are so rude, or they are so friendly, kind in nature, everything actually defines your own customer experience. So basically what you need to understand is, and we have already discussed the concept of 7Ps, and this 7Ps concept, they can be explained in so many ways. So the people, procedure, and physical evidence is basically very much evitable here. So you have this physical evidence, you have people, and you have the processes or the procedures. Apart from that, obviously there are so many other dimensions that you need to discuss, but selection model that itself is an operational nightmare sometimes, but it's going to help you out in so many ways not to explain consumer experience while they are receiving a particular service. What we are going to do is we are going to explain one by one a little bit about what selection model dimensions are. So I have already explained you this, and I don't think so it's going to be a little bit difficult for you. Servicescape is the use of physical evidence to design service environment. For example, you talk about ambient conditions, the inanimate objects, the other physical objects, signs, symbols, personal artifacts, family pictures, personal collections. All of these things, they actually enlighten the mood. They actually enlightens the space, the color combination, the design, the lighting. Everything contributes towards designing of the servicescapes. Everything contributes towards the design of the physical evidence, the architecture itself. So we are going to have an entire chapter on servicescape. So I'm just going to stop now in order for you to sunk in. And then the contract personnel, as I mentioned, you talk about the waiter, waitresses, you talk about dentist, physician, a college instructor. Employees other than the primary service provider who briefly interact with the customer are called the contact personnel, and those who actually provide the core service, they are called the service providers. So in service marketing, we may have to deal with these two type of service providers. You talk about contact personnel, you talk about the boundary spanners, you talk about the service providers, their training, their motivation, their development. Everything matters a lot. And then the other people who are receiving the same service, who share the primary customer service experience, all the people who are watching the same movie, all of the people who are traveling with you, all of the people who are receiving the same restaurant experience, all of you who are getting the same lecture. You people can affect each other's experiences. So a marketer, a manager, a service provider has to manage multiple customers with multiple needs, with multiple backgrounds or multiple behaviors in the same environment. It's going to be a lot of challenging thing to do, and this is, yes, how we are going to manage them. This would be our coming chapters. And then the rules, policies, regulation, processes, everything contributes a lot towards a positive service environment. If the rules, if the policies are unfair and they are not relaxing you, they are making you more of an inanimate object. If the rules do not actually encourage customers to obey but rather than to break the rules, and any kind of other fluctuations that can arrive because the system is not supporting, because the system does not actually facilitate the customer, or any kind of issue that we face during our service delivery because of some ridiculous rules and regulation, they can actually make or break the entire service environment. So as a manager, you need to understand the concept of policies, rules, and regulation, and they are so much important, because one thing you must understand is the manufacturing, it most of the time does not require rules and regulation, because customers, they know how to purchase a particular good, they know how to use a particular good, especially when you don't have to spend a lot of time purchasing them or using them. But when it comes to services, the reason we need rules is because majority of the people, they don't understand how a service typically works. So you will realize that majority of the universities, they have different admission criteria, they have different admission procedures. So you cannot assume that you know how to get into a university, but you all know how to buy a toothpaste, you all know how to buy a tissue paper or a car or a motorcycle, because goods, they actually have some standardized operating procedures, and services, they are a little bit different from that. And that is one reason that rules and regulations, they are so much important in services. But yeah, they have to accommodate the customer, but we are going to discuss these when we will discuss service processes. And the selection model demonstrates the consumers are an integral part of the service process, and blah, blah, blah. And yes, the one thing you need to remember, I have already discussed that why you need to study services. So our last interaction with you guys was all about this. I spent about 30 minutes explaining you why services are important, why service marketing is important. And one of the things I explained, that about 65 to 70% of the world GDP, it comes from the services. It's growing, it takes up all the workforce. The emergence of the technology is used every day. And yes, The importance of developing a sustainable service marketing business practice is inevitable. Like organizations spending more time, more resources, realizing the importance of services and more than ever. Now in front of you are the different details about different data or different statistics in order to make you understand the contribution of services. For example, if you look at this, you will realize in Hong Kong, Bahamas, or you talk about New Zealand, see what I was telling you, you have even countries who are entire GDP is based on services. So Hong Kong, Bahamas, Krakow, or Barbados, or United States, France, United Kingdom, you name it, every other smaller or bigger country, their entire GDP, it is actually dependent upon the service sector. So even the lowest ranking has about 70%, as I mentioned. And then you have how much workforce is used by these industry. Obviously those countries who are high on service sector, they are also high on the manpower. So 94.9. So you see that majority of the workforce, it goes towards a service. And yes, as I mentioned earlier in my previous lecture with you guys, the technology is actually transforming each and every aspect of services, each and every aspect of the business. So now you have services which can be electronically used. You have now services through apps. You have now services through ATM machines. You have now services like automated car wash. Now technology can make your food without even your chef present in the kitchen. Now your clothes can be manufactured without any tailor, so you name them and you will find that practitioners, entrepreneurs, managers, technologists, R&D people, they are coming up with strategies, ways in order to improve the customer experiences, and technology may be the only way to do that, because over the year it gets cheaper. It has the ability to standardize the service. It has the ability to provide a standardized quality across different segments and cohorts. So you talk about auto rental chains, bank, insurance companies, hotels, movie rental chain, theater, a variety of other retail options. The thing is that every other organization, they are using technology. Some of them are called self-serving technologies like ATM machine or any other thing that you can use on your own while you receive your service without any other person helping you out. So this chapter was all about giving you introduction about what's to come, what is to come. So I hope you must have realized that this course is important. It's a new knowledge, it's a new information for you people. I'm not saying that you absolutely don't know anything about it. What I'm trying to say is we have not covered these kind of topics before. I have seen that, I have not seen anywhere that these concepts have been discussed before. I'm not saying that these situations or scenarios are unfamiliar or unknown to you guys. Obviously you have been using services, but knowing something and studying something can be the entire difference. So from now on forward, we will be discussing all these concepts that we discussed earlier in the form of the entire module, in the form of the entire chapter. So I hope you will bear with me, and I hope you will follow through this course and pay attention and take your time upon grasping everything, and be in contact with me if you need anything. Take care guys. Allah Hafiz.